Hi, this is Wave Matteo Radio Talk, and we're here with Matteo from ShoutOutUK and me, Kiki, and P, and we're here to discuss some events. Which one we're going to do? I'll do mine first. Then we're going to discuss the woman activist role in society today, and how they're pushed out of the media scene, out of the conversation scene, and what effect and why that's kind of happening, because we do see a lot less women standing up in I don't like to use this word, front line, but that's kind of what, you get less women standing up and talking to themselves because of the threats that there is on them, almost the same as you would get in way of the racism kind of thing. Women are just as much man privilege as men, as people of colour have the white privilege. So it's kind of like when a woman goes to an event, she will have that overlying threat of social services being involved, the police being involved, things like this. As soon as police are involved, social services are always involved if you've got children, because any sort of arrest is like a domestic violence. The same way as a woman is the victim of domestic violence, she's a victim of the fact that happened as well as a threat to her children. They'll remove the children because that woman put herself in that position. It's exactly the same in activism, with this Cinderella law that's come in, where it doesn't matter what you do or how you portray it. If you don't agree with the government or the way that they put forward their plans and things like that, and you go against them, you're immediately classed as being feisty, or you're disagreeable. You don't agree with these. You don't want to follow rules. You've got an issue with authority. You have no. They'll come to your home and they'll say to you, well, what does your child do? Oh, I home educate. Oh, why do you home educate? Oh, that's because I don't believe the system is good. The system's corrupt. It's got a lot of, the religious factors into it, the product line education, where children just go on this conveyor belt of parrot fashion type learning. It's all just completely stamped into them. Rather than it being learning, it's repeating. It's repeating what they're supposed to repeat from history books that are a lie. You turn around and say that to a social service person or someone in authority, and you're straight away tabbed as having some form of ODD or some mental illness of some type, and then social services would be involved due to the Cinderella law that's in, where if you cause your child emotional distress, they would class that as you're not giving your child a good start in life, that they have a failure to thrive. You don't educate them. You are by then neglecting them. That's what they are basically saying. So you'll lose your children. So a woman standing up on a microphone, or a woman standing up and going and sitting on one of those, like the Fathers for Justice, where that woman sat up and she had children. Those people, my whole heart goes out to them, because I know exactly what threat is there for women today who have that, and men who are activists as well. But generally, because of the way the system works, where, as Fathers for Justice will tell you, that men lose a lot of rights through parenting. A lot of the children are taken from men just because the woman says, the kids don't want to see them. A woman will have more privilege with that. And in that kind of way, it's making women not want to stand up. So it's kind of wondering, asking how we can get more women into this system of activism.
But also, if you look at, like, everybody can name Martin Luther King and all the other great activists that there have been. How many can name a good female activist?
Yeah,
and there are.
you had quite a lot, the Americans, especially with concerning like the Black Panthers and that kind of the 1960s kind of thing that was going on. You had quite a few women that stood up. There was hold on, I've got it here. There was a really, really good one. Marion Wright Edelman, and she founded the Children's Right Fund, and she was the first lady to pass the bar exam, which is the first person that's able to practice, the first lady that's able to practice law.
I mean, that's amazing. And I think the problem that you got in that is that, as you said, education is taught by the victors. Education is taught by the people in power. You know, because they shape the way you want to learn. Because obviously you can't study everything in the world. But also the way our educational system is structured is that you can only learn a certain amount of it, and frankly, that's the amount that they want you to learn. So you will remember the great men in history, but in fact, I mean, the majority of women that you learn, apart from the odd Frank or various others, you rarely hear about. It's just massively one-sided. It's just massively one-sided. So people automatically start to believe that actually, there weren't many famous women in the world, when actually there are.
Look at Boadicea. I mean, she's Britannia, isn't she? On the statue. I never learnt about her at school.
Yeah, neither did I.
She was a queen, and she brought this country. She stood against the Romans, and I mean, she was victimised being a woman because her daughters were raped in front of her by the Romans in front of a big crowd. But she, instead of like crumbling, she took to being a warrior. She led her people.
Mm-hmm.
And history is full of women like that. But also being an activist. I mean, I've left groups before because of unwanted advances from men. That you're trying to work with and constantly bringing in your sexuality into it. I'm a married woman. Do you know what I mean? Like, on meeting me.
Oh yeah, that is really actually a really good point. Because when you're online and you're trying to do things online and you're trying to discuss and make connections, this is what this is all about, isn't it? Connections, really.
It's all about networking. I mean, that's the same thing.
Yeah, and it is really horrible because if you put a good photo of yourself up, you'll end up with men messaging you, go, oh, how old are you? You got a boyfriend? You don't talk to people like that. You don't go in and turn around and go, oh, hi. It's like, for God's sake, man, I've got a soul. Don't offend my soul. Because,
I see activism as my work. You know what I mean? And when I went and set up a group and we had like town meetings and everything, and the fella I was doing it with was constantly making improper comments that were making me feel uncomfortable. It's the same. I don't mind a bit of banter from someone. If I'm out in a protest and you say something to me, you don't know that I'm married, you're just a bit of banter. But if you're working with me for months on end and you know that I'm married and you know that I'm not really interested, stop fucking doing it, because it just makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I hate my sexuality being brought into it all the time. Yes, I might put makeup on and I might wear nice things, but that isn't to impress you. That's because that's what I like.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember there was a couple of times that I was at a couple of events, parliamentary ones as well, so you can imagine the people. But and I remember at one point it was such a thing, because after a while, there was a speech, blah blah blah, etc. etc. And I remember just standing back and looking at the room, and you could see that the places. I mean, of course, there were always a lot less women than there were men. And you could just see the way the men were sort of just blank face, either staring at their chest or the way they were talking about it. And it was all just, most of them were just, just trying to get advances on the person.
And it's very demoralising to think that, hang on a minute, I've said all of this, I'm doing these speeches, I've rallied these people, I've done this press thing, but everything with you constantly comes down to my tit and arse.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what I do, my tit and arse. All as you say. That Danielle, or whatever her name is, who puts the bunny ears on and does them activism things, right? It's fine that you might look good. I'd have no objections to that. The fact that you're pouting and appeasing to the men rather than your actual issues, I do have an issue with. Do you know what I mean? You can. You can be pretty.
It can make it hard for other women, because I think as well, you sort of when women, and it's the same it is the same in society. Women do it to themselves. They will go on these shows and they will, act all, ditzy or whatever, and they use their face to get to places. But you've got, when you've sat there and you've worked really hard to try and find out things and do stuff and make it important, and then the next message you get is, "You're alright, babe, you're single." It kind of ruins the lot. It's all like, but then it's these people that go online and then they sort of like act, I don't know, maybe it's just that they've not long woken up, they're not long enlightened, they're still in that zone of, yes, I can use my sexiness. No, don't do that, because that's still selling yourself out.
But to me, it's the same exact thing as, I wouldn't put the blame on women. I would put the blame on the media, in the sense that, and when I say media, I don't just mean newspapers, I mean TV, all sorts, because it's the same as black people have this exact same problem, in the sense that the media always portrays black people in sitcoms, in shows, in movies, as always being in the ghetto, always being robbers, always being drug dealers, whatever. And because they are portrayed in a certain way, when an average person goes towards a black person or whatever, they often think, oh well, that guy might rob me. They have perceptions about it. Same in the media, because women are always portrayed as ditzy, pretty,
blondes have
some
more
shows,
fun.
slides and so forth.
No, they fucking don't. Right? We don't have more fun. It's not. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the thing as well. You get almost like you'd say a French person always wears a beret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A blonde bird is always on the game. Do you know what I mean? That's exactly. You do get a lot of blonde sort of innuendo, and people
But
think
I think it's
you're
because of the media. It's because of the way the media, because the media controls us more than we like to admit, I'd say.
Every music video and every magazine and everything, they have women dressed in a certain way, and women have to use sex to advertise, whereas men are very rarely used. They might have women draped over them to embrace their masculinity and to make them look good, but very rarely are men objectified in adverts like women are.
Yeah.
And everything in society tells young girls to be fake, to put on the eyelashes, to put on the hair extensions, to not be happy in your own skin. And, there's a feminist who does just like a lot of talks. I love it. She's really good. And I'm not a big feminist, but I do agree with that. Young children with the advertising and shit, that they are just taught every step of the way that they should look like a slut, they should act like a slut. That's how we get on it.
And then we get treated like sluts no matter what we do.
Yeah, but God forbid you act like one.
Yeah.
We can be treated like one, we can be spoke to like one, we have to dress like one and act like one. But once you're labelled one, society shuns you.
Yeah.
Whereas men are masculinised, and this is great. I'm a stud muffin, me.
And I don't know if you know, but what was depressing is that lad culture, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's coming back now in universities because of so many of those shows. Like Geordie Shore's one of them, but there's hundreds of these shows pumped out by ITV that is glorifying that kind of stuff. But in the end, it's a detriment of women. Yeah. And most of these things you see on TV, and a lot of people sort of think that when you see it as trash TV, it's fun to watch, blah blah. The trouble is that everything you watch influences you in a certain way, and all this kind of stuff about the way you see women, or the fact that if a woman comes online, she's going to get bombarded with messages, isn't because men are all automatically rapists. Is because that's the way society programs people to be. It programs women to use their body to get places, and it programs men to think that all women are ready and available whenever.
Yeah, because what makes a guy?
Men are frightened of sexually empowered women that are comfortable in their own skin and their own sexuality. Men don't like it.
No, and I think the point is, you go online and you log into your Facebook. The last thing you want is messages sitting there saying, "You're all right, babe. You don't."
naked
profile.
pictures in your inbox.
Yeah. I have had erect penises sent to me as a hello. Well, hello there, boy. That's exactly what I wanted to start my day.
And I don't mean to be disrespectful to men, but that's probably the worst bit of your body you could take a picture of.
It's not what you want. It's not what you want to open your inbox to, because it's
I have
different.
heard of that before.
I will say that this month I've had 3 erect penises sent to my inbox from people I don't know.
But I mean, you got to question who the hell started that, and I mean, surely the fact that that's never worked, I don't think that's ever worked for any man ever. So surely you'd think this isn't working.
I'm always fair.
The only thing that's good for is for the girls to have a good laugh at it.
That's the point. I mean, that's probably not what those men wanted in the first place.
No.
That's probably the last thing they wanted. But I mean, that's a thing. That's just that's lunacy. That is.
Can you imagine if that's how you met a date? You went into a pub and you just walked up to them and just dropped your kegs. Hello to that then, girl.
Yeah, this is how it's done on cyber. It's wrong. It's outright wrong, and it's embarrassing because you. I try not to be unkind.
Political people as well. These are political people. These are members of political parties and MPs.
These are.
Or candidates.
Yes. Yes, they are.
Seriously.
But at least you'll have something if they ever get successful.
We share images.
But you know what? I mean, I think that's partly because of pornography, though, as well.
Yeah.
Because of the way. I mean,
it's so acceptable nowadays that you think. I mean, it's so acceptable nowadays. Years ago, men would hide their little porno stash, not share it in your inbox.
Yeah. But it's because now nothing matters. Now this whole idea of honor and respecting yourself as a human being, respecting other people, none of that matters anymore.
It doesn't. I went round with this bloke's house with my friend who she liked him, and sat down in the front room. He put porno on. Never met this bloke before, and I thought this fucking world's gone to praise. Do you know what I mean? That it's just so acceptable. You know that you. I mean, there's a time and a place. If you want to watch it, I'm not a prude. You know what I mean? But hello, how are you?
I think as well with when you go into protests and stuff and you meet people online, I do think there's an element where they'll go, oh, that person, they know exactly the same as me. Yeah, so do 10,000 other people. We're all exactly the same. We're all awake. We're all open. We're all enlightened. We're all whatever you want to call it. But just because I know the same shit as you does not mean I want to see your willy. You know what I mean? It's not. That is not a basis. This morning, conversation starter where you've got hi, that's all right. I don't mind that. A bit of hi. How are you? I'm fine, thanks. You got a boyfriend? Yes. Oh, you married? No. Okay. You got a BF? Yes, I've got a BF. Oh, would you do anything with me if you didn't have one? And that's not the first time that's happened. And my message back every time is that is an offensive question.
But that's again because all you see in the media is people cheat. I mean, have you ever watched one of those trash TV shows like Geordie Shore? Have you ever watched one all the way through?
I've seen it in other people's houses.
Just as a what was it? Just to see what crap most people actually get fed on a daily basis, I would suggest watching it at least once. Just one episode and you'll see why people think it's acceptable, that kind of stuff. And because there's no sexual education in schools, there's no sex ed in schools. So, I mean, a lot of all this kind of, and obviously because of the religious rubbish about, let's not ever talk about sex, you know, sex is something that you can't talk about, you're never supposed to deal with. What about how to talk to girls when you're a boy and so forth? Don't talk about that, that's not allowed. So all people do is they Google it on the internet, then they come across porn and they think, okay, that's the way to deal with things. So most of these people, it may sound stupid and like when you say it out loud, it may sound ridiculous that people actually get lessons from these places. But people do when you don't have anywhere else to learn it from. You learn it from porn. You learn it from other people. You learn it from TV.
Stay away from porn in inboxes. Unless you ask her.
I can't hear you.
She said, forward it on to me, I don't like it. And I'm like, no. No.
I think her microphone doesn't work. I can't hear it. Yeah.
Come closer.
Can you hear her?
I can hear her, but she's quite faint. But I've got headphones in.
I can't hear her at all. But I could hear her quite loudly before. Oh, she's gone.
She's going to come back in.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, you don't hear enough about women in activism. And you have some. What's that? Is it Celia? She went to prison for Occupy.
Oh, Celia something. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, she's a woman. You know, she's. And then you've got the Pussy Riot, right? What a Pussy Riot, isn't it?
Pussy Riot.
And the Russian one.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now, Matteo?
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Well,
you know,
it's
not that women aren't doing things.
Yeah.
It's not getting the. You know, they don't get as much credit for what they do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of it, I think it's but it's because it's all about media stereotyping, isn't it? Because I mean, media won't report on, for example, a black person unless they've done something wrong. They won't report on a young person unless they've done something wrong. They won't report on a woman unless she fits the stereotype. And because you get those stereotypes, the women that are leaders, the women that are activists, the women that are doing something that's not in what the media sees as a womanly thing to do, they're like, well, that doesn't fit the bill, that doesn't fit what we want to portray women as being, so let's just not cover that. And then they cover the women that fit, that do the things the media want them to do.
I mean, look at that woman. And her name escapes me because I'm crap with names.
Yes, same.
Biff, Fat Free in Ireland. Britain and Ireland Fat Free. And she was at Balcombe, long hair, and she did a lot of speaking. I mean, she's done a phenomenal amount for fracking.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't get half the credit she deserves.
Is that the one that turned round and said that she'd called him a liar, that MP a liar, on BBC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember her name, but yeah, she is.
She's done a phenomenal amount of work.
There was
and maybe some of it is women don't push their ego forward as much as men. Women are doing it because they're doing it from the heart. And men are doing it from the heart, but they also like to say, oh, I'm doing this.
Or maybe it's just we don't like going online past 9 o'clock because strange people come out.
You know, like maybe it's different priorities. Like, I mean, media is important, but maybe men recognise that more and they maybe push for the media more, whereas the women are more actually doing all the organising and pushing forward. That they are doing a bit of media, but they're
you know, for me, it's got, to me personally, I think it's got nothing to do with gender at all. I mean, yes, the genders are different. There are significant differences in some areas, but if you look at other animals, there is very little difference within our sexes as there is in many other animals. I would say it's strictly a societal thing, because if you look in other cultures before Western culture dominated the world, there'll be women leaders primarily.
Yeah.
As organizers, and the men were seen as expendable because they'd be sent to war, so the majority of them would die, so they wouldn't be part of the construction of society. So men were seen as almost second class. I'm not saying that's right either. I'm just saying that the way men and women are perceived in this society today, I think is strictly from a societal standpoint. And the way women are ignored in society, I think, is partly to do with maybe they don't push themselves as much because they don't see. It's almost like humans react on role models. If you don't see role models, you're gonna find it hard to break through that, because you always people always tend to look at other people before them and say, okay, you know, well, that person did it, so can I. if there's a lacking in role models, then a lot of people will find it hard to break through. Of course, there will always be people that do it, but if we don't cover the role models and so forth, then it's harder for those people to break through.
I mean, and a lot of people say that like women should, you know, be running things again, and I don't necessarily think that, because I think that it should be a mix of both.
It should be equal.
Masculine and feminine, because you do need strong as well as nurturing. But I think the only way forward is if women do push themselves a bit more.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing again is that even true? Is it down to women again? Because if you look at, have you ever heard of Sabia Benita? The woman that ran for mayor of London?
No.
She had a pretty decent campaign budget. She's really, really interesting. We interviewed her, and the media could not care less what she had to say, because the fact that she was an independent, and let's be honest, it's probably because she was a woman as well. They just couldn't care less. She was a strong woman. She's an amazing person.
But
The youngest MP to ever be elected in Great Britain was a woman, and it still is. I think she's still in Parliament. She's about, she was 21 when she got elected in Northern Ireland, but nobody hears about that.
I think women it's a fear of women as well. I do think that men can be fearful of powers women can have over, influence, should I say, that women can have over men. I bet Mrs. Cameron's got a lot of influence over Mr. Cameron.
Probably.
Of course.
It's so the saying goes, behind every great man there's a great woman, or
Or is it,
the
men wear the trousers, but the women pick what colour they are.
Yeah.
Something like that. I haven't heard that one before, but yeah. But I mean, I don't think so much as I think it's the same thing that are keeping women down, if you want to call it that, is the exact same thing in my belief that are keeping other minorities down, in the sense that it is a white, rich, male world, and obviously if you're a white, rich male, the majority.
Exactly.
Want the power for themselves. If you got £100, and one person coming up in the world is going to make you go down to about £60, the majority of people are going to say, "Wait, hold on a minute. Let's try and keep these people down, because I want all the jobs, I want all the things for myself, I want all the power."
Yeah.
So I think it's just the same sort of fight that is happening for women. It's the exact same thing that black people are going through. It's the exact same thing Asian people are going through. It's the exact same thing the Muslims are going through.
It's that segregation. It's the segregation of in exactly the same way where you would have a white privilege, there is a man privilege.
Male privilege, yeah. Yeah.
And as you said, rich men. And I watched, I don't even know what the fuck it was called, but it was horrendous. It was some matchmaker. She was like matching up women for rich men, millionaires. And
there's loads of those organisations.
And it was like a meat market. And these, like one woman was like probably about 19, 20, and the bloke was in his 40s, and I think, oh my God. And the way they talk about these women, it's just like objects. And I think, you know.
And women are a commodity.
People who see women as objects, that see women that should be there purely for their enjoyment.
Yeah, women have always been a commodity. Always.
But the thing is, I mean, it's not just women, we're all a commodity. In one way or another, just some people more than others. Because unless you have $1 million or something in the bank, and this is where the whole idea of, you know, and this is where all the different plights come in, and the different plights, I think, segregate us as much as unite us, because women are fighting for their corner in a sense. They're saying we're not getting the same amount of pay as men, we're not getting the same amount of rights as men, we're not getting the same amount of recognition as men. But minorities are fighting for the same sort of thing. And in the end, anybody that isn't a couple of million in the bank is fighting for that same thing, because why can't we have healthcare? If these things exist, why the fact that I can't pay for it because I wasn't born into a rich family, why can't I own it? Why can't I be healed? Why do I have to die of cancer if there is a cure for it, for example? Just because I don't have enough paper to deal with, because that is exactly what it is, paper. So I think, you know, I think the plight is just the same for pretty much anybody, and the way it would result for women. And what what in my belief is that it's coming up to the point where it is the sort of what's the word? A backlog? Not a backlog. And it's something else that's coming off of capitalism in the sense that we're in a society where nothing else matters but money.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
because
We're
people in
desensitized
power,
to everything that doesn't involve us now.
nothing else matters. Realistically, that's all people care about. It doesn't matter who you are and so forth. It just matters if you have money, and then you can do anything you want. The trouble is that the majority of people that have money are rich, white, old, elderly men. Therefore, they're going to tailor society to favor them above everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, those men have desires, and that's probably why they denigrate and treat women the way they do, because they see they want women to be treated like that in society, so it makes it acceptable for them themselves to treat it. It's
Also,
a very selfish system in the sense that
quite happy to accommodate that, which is kind of justifying their actions to themselves.
There is a lot of women out there who are willing to accommodate that.
And in a way, that then says to the person who wants women like that women are like that. So it confirms the women being objects and being your property.
But here's a question. Do you think that those women are doing that? Because obviously, the idea of women using their body to get the things they want and so forth has been around for generations, for years, for decades. That people have seen kings being manipulated in such a way by women and so on. Do you think that is a power for women?
Being afraid of women's power over men, because women have the power to manipulate those situations, and many do. We're by no means angels as a species.
Yeah, no, you're too right. But do you think that is now to detriment of women, or do you think that's more of a do you see that as power? Do you see that as a good thing, or do you see that as something negative?
It's got to be negative in a world made of connections and truthful and honest connections. And manipulation of any type is a dishonesty.
And how many of these women actually are happy? Especially the ones that go after the real rich old men that they know are going to die in a few years. Say they've got 10 years left in them. What of them 10 years that you're going to give are the most miserable fucking years of your life just for a few dollars?
Well, wouldn't you rather be with somebody that's like you could have that could have been their moment, that could have been their connection, that could have been their time, and they've spent it chasing, like you said, a piece of paper.
But do you think then it's because of the fact that we cover nothing else but paper now, to the point where you'd say to, for example,
we cover a quiet, easy, peaceful life, and the only way you can have that without worry and stress is to have endless pieces of paper in your bank account.
But I don't know. To me personally, it's now become just simpler than that. I think we cover money as almost like a drug now, because that's all we've been pumped into our system.
We're addicted to it.
Yeah.
Because of the way the media, all they keep saying is you gotta make money, you gotta do this, that, and the other. The music, all they're talking about is making money. Making money. Everything's an investment. Nothing is just to buy. A house is an investment. A car is an investment. A portrait is an investment. A pen is an investment. Now it's not. I want to buy a pen because I like that pen. I want to get this house because I want a peaceful life. I want to live in it till I die. Nothing's like that anymore. Everything's about making more money till you're dead.
But look at the spin that they put on things. The BBC this morning did a thing about the number of people going self-employed. And the woman who was supposed to be a financial expert or whatever was like, oh yeah, it shows that when the shit, well not the shit's hit the fan, but basically when the poo hit the fan, it shows how many people have been resilient and gone self-employed. Well, no, because the job centre is forcing people to go self-employed, selling stuff on eBay or ironing where they've got no hope of making an actual living just to cook their unemployment figures.
Yeah.
It's not. There's people that have been refused benefits. The only way they are going to get any money is by becoming self-employed and getting tax credits. It's a hidden benefit. It makes you look like you're dealing with the problem when you aren't.
And you've got the point where you'll have money, where they'll pay you money, say tax credits, and say if you're a single person and you've got a child under the age of 5, a lot of people don't want to go to work and leave their children with other people to get rent that they could have paid for, because they don't want to leave their children. Do you know what I mean? A lot of women don't go out to go get pregnant and then lose their I've got a friend, she's got 4 children, her husband died and left her. That's not some, she shouldn't have to sit there, and then the next relationship she has, if that person sleeps over 3 more nights, he's then responsible for her. Then her money stops and he has to support her. Women are always looked at as a burden as well, when it comes down to women who haven't got that career path with that big grey suit and the children called India and Poppy, whatever she wants to call them. People like
you're
that.
talking about what's her face?
Sour tits.
Kate Hopkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you've got women like that which say a woman should go out there, no, do you know what? I believe fully, right, if you have a child, you nurture that child as long as you bloody can, because once they've hit school, you're never going to see them again. Not really, not properly. It's never the same again. That's your moment to bond with them. Don't allow some rich posh tart to turn around to you and tell you your only reason to get out is you need to be a powerful woman, you need to think about money all the time. And we wonder why so many kids are fucked up these days, because they're latchkey kids.
I mean, I grew up in care, so obviously I always craved a mother. And having 4 kids myself, they are the most precious. Every second that I spend with them is the most precious time, and it doesn't last. It sounds like a long time, like 18 years. Well, now they don't leave home till they're 30 because they can't afford to. But
Yeah.
It goes so fast. It's in a blink of an eye from when they're a baby to when they're older. And really, I didn't agree to this system that's in place, right? Before I was born, I didn't say I wanted an MP, I didn't say I wanted to pay taxes, I didn't want to say I had to work. This was forced upon me. Now, my basic right is to have and raise children. And for any parent who wants to, and there have been times when my husband stayed at home and looked after the kids and I've gone out to work.
Yeah, and if they don't like it, give us some land. Give us some land and leave us alone and let us go. And we'll quite happily bring our children up without the help of the government.
But they need slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As simple as that. I mean, it's the whole, you're sort of quoting Moses there, let my people go. No, because we need you to finish this stuff.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna help. It's the same, it's a Bible story, but there is truth in that, in the way things are. Let us go. Well, we can't, because we need you to run the society that we're living off.
Yeah, and that make us feel like we can't no longer parent alone now. We now have to we can parent, but only as long as the government finds it satisfactory. So I couldn't I could and I do take my child off school and teach them how to garden, how to cook food, how to use food, how to not put their fingers in plug sockets, and sure, things that in life are actually needed. And then step by step you go individually. I think the best teachers can sometimes be the parents, as long as you have a social surrounding for them and you've got plenty of activities and things. And to be honest, if this schooling system wasn't how it was, there'd be loads of little schools pop up all around doing their own individual things, and people would be able to use the education they wanted.
The best teachers are the people you meet along life, and obviously your parents being the guides of that road. It's an old African saying, it takes a village to grow a child. In the sense that you have all these individual people giving their little bits of wisdom that they've had through life, their mistakes, their successes, that end up growing that child. There's not one person reading from a textbook. That's not how to educate a person. That's how to indoctrinate someone. I think the biggest joke of society, though, is the fact that you're made to believe that you need the system to survive, but in reality, they need you more than you need them. Because if you look at the way society works, say a street sweeper, right, somebody that's considered the lowest of society, even though does one of the most crucial jobs in society, if society collapsed, I'm guarantee you that he'll survive longer than a banker. That I can guarantee you.
Yeah.
The stuff that bankers learned will be useless in the real world.
No.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, should we quickly on the second topic before Chris
we'll go on to your one now.
the Tories doing away with the, well, trying to do away with the Human Rights Act. And, you know, I mean, that's our protection, isn't it? That makes us be seen as equal in courts against police and all of that sort of stuff. Our right to family life and our basic rights, which no doubt will also go along the lines of your passports being revoked, which is something that they keep harping on about, being able to make British citizens stateless. Now, as activists, they say it's for terrorists, but increasingly activists are being classed as domestic terrorists. What the freaking hell would happen to us if they just like took our passports and kicked us out?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, they could.
I've got quite a chilling story about that, because when I was in, there is a group of individuals who are nationals of a country that doesn't exist anymore, just to give you an idea of what would happen if you became stateless as an individual. There's about, I think it's 200 of them left, because all the rest have died down now, sadly. And I remember when I was working in Salzburg, I met some of these people, and it's so terribly sad. And basically all they do is they get detained between Australia and Britain, I think it is, and they just fly back and forth because the states keep sending them back and forth continuously. So they just live on basically cargo planes because they have no state takes responsibility for them, and you become homeless in effect because everywhere is a state.
Yeah.
That is something that they were raving about not so long ago, about revoking passports, and now they've been harping on again about the human rights. And then we have like the sad beheading of the journalist in that video.
Yeah.
And the English accent in it, which then they're going to be using in the courts because they used that hook man to say why they needed to get out the... Yeah, because he couldn't be deported. So they use all these horror stories of, well, we've got to put up with him because we've got human rights, and maybe that man over in that video, he might be English and he's terrorist, so we need to lose our human rights so we can get him. And then there was cases of paedophiles going to court to claim their human right to a right to family life and getting access to their kids. Now, these are all scaremongering stories, which are all, you know, like, it's outrageous to think that you could possibly put a child's safety at risk for any reason. You know, 'cause the child's got human rights, and it's got the Charter of Children's Rights. You know, they wouldn't let it stay with you at home and not in care if you were hurting it in any way. So why should the paedophile that's been convicted have that right? And that's an emotive story that everyone's going to be outraged at. But it is not an excuse to lose our human rights. It is not a reason to say our human rights.
It's an excuse to change the law.
Yeah.
That's what they're using
to remove our rights, the little rights we have left.
Yeah, as people, we have to not lose sight of how important our human rights are, and they are our rights. Rights cannot be taken away. They're stolen. We have a right to be housed. We have a right to a family life. We have a right to a name.
Yeah. I mean, I remember there was I was quite sad because I remember when I studied politics at A levels. I remember me and my friends that used to study it. We didn't think much of the Human Rights Court because of the way it was educated. And I have a massive grudge against the educational system for the way they teach about human rights courts. Just to give you an example about it, the examples we had to give in the exam, by the way, because if we didn't, we'd fail. Just to give you an example. So we had to learn them. So it's almost like you had to indoctrinate yourself to actually pass it. The examples they gave was a man was, because of his Human Rights Act, was given hardcore pornography, even though he was a paedophile. Another one was he was given access to the internet, 24/7 cable TV, HD, and so forth. You know, all these ridiculous examples. There were 5 of them. I can't remember all of them, but they were, you know, on that same level. Where a guy was also acquitted, even though he killed someone and so forth. And it's like, now what I've realized is that no court system is perfect. But for every one that the Human Rights Court gets wrong, let's say, if you want to call it that, although you don't know the full story of what happened anyway, for every one that potentially gets wrong, about 10 others they save from the injustices of the British government.
Yeah.
And it's upheld by the papers, isn't it? They're always doing, and it's the same with the EU. The cucumbers are too bent, the bananas are too straight, and he couldn't get kicked out of the country because of this and that. It's like the NHS horror stories, pushing the government agenda all the time.
Yeah.
And the masses listening to it, to be honest, the bullshit. They can't see it in front of their eyes. They really can't. And it's our right to protest as well.
Yeah.
And if you use our right to protest and our right to free speech, then we will be domestic terrorists and we will lose our passports.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like you can see the breadcrumb trail being left before them. You can sort of see
they're gonna round all the anons up, aren't they? And all the activists, the frackers, the Occupy, all these people, especially the first ones to go.
Yeah.
You know, they're always gonna be rounding them up now, aren't they? I would say that will be their next agenda. Bye, guys. See you on the other side.
But I mean, you can sort of see how you can sort of see where it's going, and I mean, the European Union. I'm sorry, but he's one of the best things that's happened to Britain in the sense that, I mean, yeah, economically maybe someone could argue it may not have been the best thing, but so what? Oh my God, that's terrifying!
Surprise!
That scared me.
Surprise, big faces!
Scared me. That did scare me.
Oh my God, that is terrifying. But
there's a conversation killer right there for you.
I forgot what we were saying. I forgot what we were saying.
Hold on. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the European. The European Union is one of the best things that ever happened to Britain. Otherwise, we would have been mirroring the US by now, which is probably one of the worst things that could have possibly happened. And the only reason why we're not to the extent of the US is simply because of the Human Rights Court and the European Union. Which, yes, is cumbersome as hell, but I mean, it's the first one of its kind. Of course things are going to go wrong. It's like the British people and the newspapers expected everything to go right first time. No grouping of states has ever tried something like this before. So how the hell can you possibly expect them to get it right the first time? Of course the European Court of Human Rights are going to make stupid decisions. Every organisation does. But it's the point of this, the 5 that they've gotten wrong, you can't really compare that to the hundreds they've gotten right and they've saved.
Yeah.
It's just they always highlight the wrong ones to make things worse and to go by the agenda that they follow. Yeah. It's quite sad, really.
Yeah, and it's quite imminent.
Well, yeah, there is also hope, because I see a lot. I do see a lot of people's opinions are changing. You know, I'm finding new people in my town all the time that are watching chemtrails, are taking an interest in Gaza, are looking for discrepancies in everything that's been said. Whereas a few years ago, I wouldn't have seen that around me. I'd just be looked at like the crazy lady. Go. I leave you to it. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, B.
Bye.
B?
Hang on, I'm trying to hang up.
Just edit this out.
Not the smoothest of exits, I must say.
I'm always smooth.
Smooth. Real smooth.
There we go.
Okay, so.
Who should we go with?
What are you going to talk about, Chris?
I was going to talk about media perceptions. Oh, sorry, you went Chris. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to flit about from what you guys was going to say, and then just come with a little bit of a rant towards the end, and just go on a rant, because I've had enough.
Well, you go then, Matteo.
Fair enough.
You kick off, Matt.
Well, I wanted to talk about media perceptions, because it's something that I think we've seen massively over the years with various different groupings in society, and I think it's culminated in the Ukraine massively. with you see a massive politicized sort of debate between pro-Russian media in the East and then pro-Western media damning themselves and each other, just fighting amongst each other, forgetting that there are thousands of people that are dying in there, being displaced, losing their homes, losing their livelihoods because of the conflict that was set up behind closed doors. And let's be honest, it was set up. And then you've got Ferguson now in the US, which Western media are trying to make it out as if they are criminals, protesters, looters, what have you, when in reality they just want justice for a dead child. Where the US shot somebody before with Zimmerman, and he got acquitted, as you know, and then a load of things happened which they reopened the case, and I think they got justice there. And now they've shot another one, and it's almost like this thing where the US police are so massively trigger happy that they'll just shoot anybody. And that's, again, I think it's all about media perceptions, the way they perceive young people as always being hoodies, always being involved in gang culture, always being involved in stabbings and whatnot. And even more specifically, where you have black people that they always portray them as being in gangs, drug dealers and whatnot. They never perceive them as anything else. And then you've got, we were talking about women earlier, how they perceive women in the media, how women are either sexualized in the media or perceived as ditzy if you're of certain hair color or whatnot. And there's just so many sort of media perceptions which influence the way we see things, influence the way we see society. And they just manipulate and take one example, then make it out like everybody is that way. And I think it's one of the most damaging things in society. And I would say that if you wanted to blame a grouping in society for a lot of the mess that's going on in the world, I would say it's the media. Because if it wasn't for the media, we wouldn't be seeing this sort of interracial fighting in the US. If it wasn't for the media, we wouldn't see this massive Islamic bashing of right-wing groups in the West. We wouldn't see the amount of hatred for Asian communities now. We wouldn't see the amount of debate and argument between males and females now in society. None of that would happen if it wasn't for the way the media portray people in sitcoms, portray people in movies, portray people in news networks, portray people in radio. It's a disgusting thing. And I remember reading once, I did a speech about it at the Youth Summit a while ago, where I was talking about how 90% of stories published in the media about young people don't actually include a young person's voice, i.e. a quote about them or whatnot. I saw an article by the Evening Standard, worst bit of journalism I've seen so far, where they talked about what young people care about in the mainstream, what young people care about when they go abroad. And they were talking about young people only care about how they get BBC iPlayer abroad, if they should take their partner, I've just gotten pregnant, should I carry on my year? And young people are not this alien grouping that only care about piss-ups and so forth. We are human beings like everybody else. We care about the issues of the police. We care about the environment. We care about the way society works. Yes, we care about the economy and whatnot. We care about we're not this sort of like different grouping in society that only care about rioting, partying, drinking and whatnot. We care about many, many other things, but the media always portrays us as just one side, and that happens across the board to every single minority out there. So I just went on a bit of a rant, but it's something that I feel incredibly passionate about. Because it's something that is it's disgusting, and it's one of the main reasons why we have so many issues in the world. So many issues. It's one of the main reasons why I set up the organization I run. Because it's just terrible to see the amount of hatred that goes on in the media for so many different groupings. So many different groupings. And I mean, we've got two newspapers that run Britain, in a way. That tell people how to vote, that tell people how to act, that tell people how to think, that tell people who to take next. You know, first it's Asian people, then it's black people, now it's Muslims.
But Matteo, you're talking about a media that we know is completely corrupt. We know that is not owned. That we know that is done for one reason and one reason only. Media is the perception of what needs to be in control. So if they need to be in control, what are they going to do? What do they need to do? There is what you're seeing now. Why you're feeling so much disgust now is because of what you're doing and the impact of social media. It's taken the genre and taken it back 100, 200 to the printing press time, where information was distributed at source. At source. You take Ferguson, like you say, take Ferguson. Now you see the manipulation. There isn't so much now from mainstream. You see mainstream that was there saying, well, Al Jazeera, we just got gassed. Canisters being fired at them, equipment being taken down. Now, they have a juxtaposition if people are filming them. that then allows them, the media, to respond because it is in the public's eye. That's not happened before. There's not been a direct position where the public can juxtaposition the direct effect of the media because it's control. We can now, with phones, you see, with police, you just have to search on LiveLink or anything like that to see police brutality. You want to go back, you can go back further than Trayvon. Trayvon was a travesty. You see, and then did you see the second guy? Have you seen the video that come out today that the police released of the second guy that they shot, who stole 2 cans of drink from a shop? Stole the drink, walked away. He had a knife in his hand, but from the police account to what the account was of what you could see, completely different. Completely different. So, media control is not what I get your angst. I completely do. But all I see now is complete change. Mainstream media has no... All right.
Oh, I think what you're saying is mainstream media has no place in the in today's society.
But you see, I mean, huh?
It doesn't. It doesn't actually have, mainstream media doesn't have any place in today's society.
It doesn't, but it still has so much power and influence, and that's the problem.
Very much.
You, as an activist,
from a young age, from a very young age, it can affect them.
Sorry, Chris, I think you got cut off there.
No, it's cool. It's just like, you know, with that juxtaposition of the mainstream media now, you can't not take the mainstream from right or left. This opens it up for the left-hand side of the media that has been controlled by the right, and then is controlled by even further. You got big... Murdoch owns fucking so much. How many media companies are there? It's 7 that's it.
Yeah.
7 that control everything. So everything you see is their perception of what they want.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. Look, go on, Kay.
I think personally as well, with it being people like Rupert Murdoch and people like that, that the control of the media, we're not seeing the bigger picture sometimes. That we say that it's a class war, it's a race war, it's a homeless person war, it's all that kind of thing. Sorry, something flicked up then and distracted me. We say it's all this, but what it is, it's a war in the movement. It is the 1% and the 99%. That is exactly what it is. There is no other wars. We are standing for anything and everything that's right in this world, and they are standing for anything and everything that has a price on it in this world. And that is it.
When you could start earning money from the media, that's when it becomes corrupt. If you don't have
the 1%. And
if you don't,
media is part of the 99%.
I think the one thing that's worrying, I mean, the thing about what we're seeing is, I mean, we check social media, we are socially active in circles. You type in Ferguson and stuff on Twitter, and you can see what's going on. As you said, you can see what's going on, but the majority of people still rely on newspapers. They still rely on TV. And the sad thing is that the mainstream media have still so much power, despite the fact that we can see reality of what's going on our fingertips. All you got to do is pick up a phone. Most people don't. And the thing that's sort of worrying in my mind at the moment is what the media, mainstream media, is going to do with their millions. Because I think you'll be deluding yourself if you can think that one day mainstream media is going to die out without a fight, because they're not. They are losing, yes, a lot of money. Newspaper circulation is going down. But what I worry about, because the internet isn't something that is for everybody, in the sense that it's almost like yelling in a room, in a crowded football stadium. And the people that have millions have megaphones. So, in my idea, what worries me is that when the mainstream media, because there are old people that make those decisions that still think press has a future, print has a future, when they suddenly realize it doesn't, are they going to drop printing, dump all their information and all their money online, and then dominate the online alternative media scene? Because something like The Guardian, for example, so they can do that.
They could.
They can't, though. They can't, because there's too many people out there to juxtaposition. If you've got the movement that we've got, and as well technological advances, where you're still thinking in this current paradigm where technology is at this level. If they wanted to make a sweep and take the ball now, they could, quite easily. They're trying that with net neutrality. They want to take control of the internet, have it for themselves so they can stream what you get, pull back bandwidth, and we wouldn't be able to do things like this. But technology moves too fast for these people, and it will move faster for us because we're ahead of the curve. We're getting that technology and we're using it, we're manipulating it, and we're thinking of new ideas. Look how Facebook's grown up. Compare Facebook to Twitter. Instant feed on Twitter. Facebook's a little bit slow, but you'll still get a constant stream of information. The majority of kids now are not using Facebook. They don't want to use Facebook. They want to use a more instant kind of chat. Snapchat. They've gone up more over to Instagram with pictures and going like that. You're talking now as if these people are going to be around forever, because they're not. You you do media. So what? How old are you? You're young. What about all the people that you're with? What? They're not going to get older. You're with this technology. You're like, you know, I'm 38. I've grown up with an exponential growth of technology and seen it till I've got a phone in my front of my face and I'm chatting to 3 people across the country that can be broadcast around the world. That's how much technology I've seen in that short period of time. What are you going to see that's going to change everything? That's the mind blow for me. The concepts of media are going to change people's perceptions again, because you're going to have different formats to view media on.
You see, I agree with you, but there is one thing that is always at the back of my mind. Is that we as an organization, yes, are growing, but we are nothing compared to the mainstream and the amount of money that they've got, which backs them. And the point is that money is what counts. You're going to find a 19-year-old that is better at computing than me that will willingly sell his soul to any news network and give them the access to the internet that we have as activists, right? One thing. Second thing is that you're talking about Facebook, Twitter, Google+, which is what we're on. Who owns these companies? We use them, and we have the right to use them for now. If they suddenly decided to switch all this shit off, or decided to manipulate it, or make sure that only the hashtags that manipulate or work for them go through, there is nothing we can do to stop that.
There's another internet.
We're putting all
There's another internet, mate.
One basket.
Another internet.
That is in my mind. Sorry to be sort of kind of...
No, you're completely right, because that's the whole point of net neutrality, and what they want to do is to shut it and cut it down. But you've got mesh networking. Like, people forget how the internet started. The internet started with a peer-to-peer connection, one person to one person. That's all it is. Then people started having servers. People own their own servers now. To create another network and create another internet is simple. It is not difficult. As soon as if you don't need ISPs, all you got to do is start connecting computers to each other, and this is so simple to do. As soon as you do that, a new internet forms. No control, no nothing, new boundaries again. They're trying to snap down on this now because they know that they can gain some control of it. But there's that probability chance that, like, well, people can say, well, fuck it, we'll go to the other internet. We'll go to the darknet. We'll switch over to that. No matter what, mate.
But there's still only a percentage that will switch over to that darknet. That you still not reach. Then you are no longer reaching the masses. You're only reaching to your own. There's no point in being on darknet. Eventually, they'll round you up and take you in.
But then that growth will start again, though. You think that you can't stop an idea of revolting against society or against oppression in any way when your liberties have been taken away from you, when your freedom is taken away from you. Just look at the people in Gaza. Getting bombed left, right, and fucking centre. Are they giving up? No, they're fighting because they've got nothing left. It would be exactly the same.
The rest of us helping and spreading the message and saying, right, this is happening, that's happening, this is happening, help them. We wouldn't have had the uproar we've had. Now, if we were all banned from the internet, you wouldn't get that uproar from people in general society. You'd only get it on your internet.
Yeah, you get it in a small group.
Yeah.
Small group get picked off, though. I mean, what I would say is, and why this right now is so important, is because right now, these organizations, wrongly for themselves, believe, for example, that print is still good. They are incredibly elderly, and so if they do not have the same kind of connection to the internet for the moment, I think we have this advantage for a limited time, and now is the time that we need to act. We are on a time, but we don't have all the time in the world to do what we need to do. Net neutrality is showing this, and for the time being, we have a huge advantage. And it's like being in a war, because it is a war, and I think the problem with what we need to see in this society is that you have It's never going to be like in Gaza where you're going to have to fight, actually physically fight. It's all going to be done via marketing. It's all going to be done via the pen. It's all going to be done via protest. None of it is going to be on the ground physically with violence, because that's not where our society changes. You win over the masses, you win over the society, you win over the West. It's all run by mass because they can't not have a democracy. It's almost like this society needs to have that kind of facade, because otherwise what they have will collapse. They've made it very, very simple for us to work with. Because
they've fought so hard for patriotism and free speech and to push that forward. They can't go back on themselves now, so they have to do it in a backhanded kind of way. Exactly.
So they need that. But the media is the crucial thing. You control the media, you control society, therefore you can manipulate it how you want it. And which is why what gets me so angry is that the media have so much power over it, and they're all very negative. But if a positive media ever came through, and this is why it's so impossible for any media, with potentially exception of a couple of them, to actually do anything, because they know that the media is almost like, if you wanted to use the word front line, it's almost like the media is the front line, because the war is fought by the pen now. You control the media. You get one of the media on side, for example, for, say, Wave of Action. You'd be rolling across the country tomorrow. Because they have the ability to control the mainstream, and that is I think where the crux of the decisions are made. You move from the fringes to the mainstream, you got a movement. Like UKIP, for example. UKIP are the perfect example. The media jumped on them, and now they are the biggest majority in the European Parliament. Not because their ideas are good, not because for any other reason apart from the media.
The media wanted them.
Portray them in a positive way.
No, you're right. You're totally right. I think that the one thing I always said at the beginning was the fact that the media is still broadcasting is shocking, considering they're not a government organisation, they're a corporation. It's not treason, it's not whatever you want to call it, by trying to take them down. But I think the media's had its day.
Yeah.
I think the media has had its day, and that's it now. They need to move aside and let social media come through and the truth come through. And then let us do this how we need to do this.
They won't go down without a fight, though, and I think that is where... I mean, the crucial bit of it is going to be the internet. Where the mainstream are going to get their information from in the next couple of years is going to be crucial. If it's going to be still the main kind of mainstream places, or if it's going to be more Twitter, Facebook, social media. Because young people are, but young people don't make the decisions.
They've already started doing that, though, haven't they? Reporting more from social media. You know, they'll go look at the supposed plane hijacking and plane incident that was in Manchester last 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? Where the guy on board took the picture of the fighter jet that's to his left.
Oh, I did see that.
And tweeted it out. So he tweeted it out. So he's seen a jet flying fucking next to the plane and thought, oh, this ain't fucking right. That's a fucking jet, man. That's laden, ready to blow the fuck out of this plane. Took the picture, hit the net, hit Twitter. The news story started from that and that alone. And then they had to come out and say about it. You wouldn't have known anything about it if it wasn't for that alternative media.
Yeah.
So the mainstream is trying to catch up, but your fear of the complete manipulation of it, yeah, that's just, man. It's like it's going to fucking happen no matter what, because they need that to control populace. Like you say, through the flow of media, is that if that's the only knowledge that people are getting, then they're only going to be able to feed on stupid, fucking ridiculous ideas that are not going to help anyone. But I always think of like you think of that, I think of the other X factor. People will not take it. There will not be everyone that will take it. You can stamp people out, but the fucking thing will carry on. History proves it. No matter what has been crushed, what uprising has been crushed, it has come back. It's never died out completely. It has come back and fought on and fought on and fought on. That's the human spirit, man. And I don't think that we're on
history's always also denoted that when oil crashes, that population crashes.
Yeah, I mean that's the point. This society is going to end regardless of what we do. Even if we all sat back, eventually shit's going to hit the fan, quite literally.
But then
it depends on what's going to happen afterwards.
But that allows, then that's where the amount of people that we're doing now, this is when you have that fear of catching up. This is the work that everyone's doing now. of informing as many people as you can about as many topics to sway the populace.
Yeah.
That percentage is getting closer and closer until they do grasp the media, unless it like 100% and the internet and freedom is just gone in a quick flash. Or you're going to see the complete collapse of industrial civilization. It's not going to happen like overnight. It's not going to be a quick thing that they do because they've got to slowly manipulate. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's where I think that's where I think the you sort of see that frontline battleground. I hate using that word, but I can't think of anything else. But that frontline battleground is between the mainstream media, as I said, and citizen journalists, because they report one thing and then they're like, oh crap, we forgot that one online a day ago. We sort of now have to change our story a little bit to suit that. And it's almost like a race between, well, with Ferguson, you can see it. Fox News pumping out its bullshit continuously, on and on and on, and then you got all the Twitter and citizen journalists sort of collectively pumping out their stuff, and it depends on what reaches more, because then it goes down to marketing, because obviously Fox News can reach more people because they have more money. Citizen journalists are still sort of broken up. Maybe a collective of citizen journalists needs to be formed, something to do with that.
But that's when
the other side.
That's when you have the likes of the comedian side of the left pulling the attention to it, and that's when the comedic value comes into where people are satirizing Fox News. Fox News is now becoming the satirist wet dream. If you want fucking material to like make and ridicule the fucking right, who do you pick? All right, I've got Hannity, I've got fucking O'Reilly. Which one of these guys? That's without even the 5 hosts that they have during the day. I can pick any one of them, Brett Hume, the whole shebang. Let them sit on a sofa and I'll put bullets in them. That's literally, not literally speaking, that is like verbally, as in that, not as in a gun.
Yeah, really, yeah.
GCHQ and all that malarkey. But the satirist, yeah, that's someone else's fault. This is why I'm wearing a mask. I ain't getting it. No one's seeing the face going incognito now. Some woman in Peterborough's got me on the watch list. She did!
Right.
Anyway. So yeah, that's the satirist's wet dream of being able to just like hit Fox News constantly, and that is where social media becomes more apparent and hits more mainstream people, because people are seeing funny shit. John Oliver is the perfect guy to be English and in America at the moment, because every single fucking report this man does hits it out the park. His comedic timing, his satire, he hits full on to the point, he hits every topic right, makes you think. In a 15-minute chat, he'll take you through the complete history, rip the shit out of every second, but will make you think. That's the power still of mainstream. That he's on HBO, that's a cable network out there, and then his online success now is just, I will look forward to his reports every week. So, even though that there is that mainstream there, it's being ridiculed now. People love a joke. That's what's still flying around. That's what they can't control. That element of mirth and merriment. You take the piss out of someone, someone's going to laugh.
But
you make it funny.
The same difference is that there is a percentage of people that would also have seen what the propaganda they're sharing, and will not see the joke part. So you're still feeding that. You're feeding the ones that I've got friends where I have to go, acquaintances, that I can tell them one thing and next week they'll have totally forgotten what I've told them. They'll just totally be back straight in the mainstream, and they're just sucked straight back in. There's nothing. Some people I really do think they'd need a lot of therapy and a lot of help to get through this if they actually did.
I mean, the reality is, with human beings, it's not about how you say it, although it is at some point, but it's how many times you say something. Because if you put on loop, for example, that the moon is pink, everybody knows it's not. But if you put it on loop every Friday night, every Thursday night, every Monday,
the world will be pink.
People will start to believe it. People will start to believe it. And this isn't a new tactic. Romans used to use it to make.
This is why the media has separated sorry, this is why the media has separated people into A-list, B-list, C-list. Did you hear the way that they were like, oh, this is Russell Brand, D-list celebrity from UK, and it's like, oh, I'm going to trash you because you're only D-list. He's only allowed D-list because they'll blackball him to a point where he can't get any higher, so that his voice will only reach a certain amount of people. You know, and this is the thing, they create these divides within celebrities as well, so that nobody becomes too big for their boots.
Yeah. So it's all about control, so that they can destroy you if they need to.
They're the ones that die accidentally or have sudden car crashes and overdoses.
Exactly. But that's what it's about in the end. It's about that control, and I think that we're it is a war. You know, that is the exact right word to use it. In the sense that there's a war for people's minds, and that's the thing. The difference in human history, that it's always been physical, but now it's a war on your mind. In the sense that you are fighting for people's beliefs, you are fighting for their mentality, because the mainstream have destroyed people's ability to think clearly, people's ability to think rationally, people's ability to think normally.
Yeah, but that's not just the main. Like, to stop people thinking rationally is an educational thing. That's a societal thing. Now you're talking big conspiracy shit. Now you're talking, because that ties in. If you're talking complete manipulation of design of the media to push and steer and socially engineer a society, then you're talking from a higher plan upwards. So that then comes into coalition. You can't not think critically.
People that are high up own the media.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying too. If you insinuate that the media is controlled for people's perception to make them believe and to design a society like that, you are ultimately saying that you believe that there is some kind of organisation that is completely designing society this way. I can't not disagree with you. As much as I want to, as much as I've been rational for 37 years and 1 year of like conscious thinking, I've taken and consumed the most hugest amount of information. And no matter what, in a rational, critical thinking mind, you can't not help but think that way, which is the absurd thing. Because now I think of myself as being fucking fringe lunatic. I wear a mask in front of a camera that's fucking, you know, what is my perception of myself now? Because I know if I believe that a media is controlled, why is a media controlled? Because they want me to think and want me to act this certain way. They want me to buy a certain product. They want me to spend money. They want me to live my life that way. If they want me to do that, who is pulling their strings? Then if who is pulling their strings, who is giving them the money and authority to do that? That's what it leads to. No matter what question I have come back to, media.
But what if it is them who is the money? There's no point thinking beyond that, because we know the media is to control the masses. It is to control the masses. Stick a bit of fluoride in the water, put a bit of TV on the box, give a bit of GMO product to, you know, genetically modify somebody in the ways that they want to. Bam, you have got a world ran by some sick psychos. And it doesn't matter whether you put a tag on them, you just head for the money. Head for the money and where the information comes from.
There was I don't remember, there was a Swiss think tank that disappeared afterwards, that they traced the source of money. And I'm not gonna go any further than that, but
we'll chat off air about that one. You can tell us off air about that one.
It's the Crown Commission.
But I mean, it was an amazing report, you know, and they published it online. But the point is, what I'm saying is that the world is a very, very simple place when you think about it. And what is amazing, and I've got a perfect example about the way, you know, about manipulating people's minds. But before I go into that, the world is a very, very simple place. If you look historically, people have done this for generations, and it's weird because as you said yourself, you know, with a rational mind, this isn't happening, you know, this is not happening. But then you look historically and think, okay, look at Hitler, for example. Everybody hates Hitler. Everybody hates the Nazis. They manipulated the media and used their propaganda to make people go to war and hate Jews, right? They did that. Everybody accepts it. Well, apart from some right-wing nutters, but I mean, let's ignore that for a second. Everybody accepts that, right? So why is it so believable for that lunatic to have used it, but for as soon as we think about it, nobody else could possibly have thought of that tactic? despite the fact that they did it, the Romans did it, the Russians did it, the USSR, every organization in society has done it, but apart from the West, which we are of course saints, and we don't do those kind of things.
White privilege.
We are in the system ourselves. We're not meant to think that way. And an example that I'll give you right now is when I was studying A-levels not too long ago, because I'm only 22. When I was studying A-levels, I remember that in the exam that I did for politics and history, I had to talk about how bad human rights were. I had to. There was no other way, or else you failed the exam. I had to talk about there was 5 examples that you could pick from, and all of them were about a paedophile getting access to hardcore pornography in jail, another one getting released for murdering a woman. In all these examples, and you had to talk about how bad human rights is. That is manipulation of children, but to hate the human rights court. After that, once you leave education, you have to have the media, because they're thinking, okay, once they leave education, how do I know he's not going to unlearn all of this? But the media,
the indoctrination. Yeah, I completely get with indoctrination, but then and that's the alarming part to me. I hate to think that's like you said, that niggling thing that's in the back of your head. Because you see what you're doing, you've been and seen stuff and you've reported on it, you understand what the current situation is. Now that you've got that niggle in the back of your head, I have exactly the same niggle, because I've all the evidence that I see point to complete social manipulation. And as a rational person, I've had to come to that conclusion. No, like you say, you look back in history, you can even look brief history, man. You just Bay of Pitt, Gulf Tonkin, copious amount, northwards, just what? To believe that any government is not manipulating you, is stupid. And I was stupid for 37 years. I believe that shit.
The thing is, though, it's no longer a government, is it? It's not the government that's manipulating you. They have totally suppressed the Middle East, and any black kind of form of humanity has been segregated to a point where they have no say whatsoever, and their rights mean nothing. Us, the people in Western societies, actually don't value the lives much. I really don't believe they do, because if they did, they would be fighting for Gaza. If they did, they would have fought for Africa. If they did, they would have fought for all these countries. Do you know what? We don't fight because we're too busy about that. Money in our pockets constantly. That's all it's about. It's what we can buy, what we'll lose. Oh, do you know there's a little 5-year-old making your little Gap t-shirts? That's all right, because that looks really good on my 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And my 5-year-old's fine.
And I mean, that's the whole point. It's about the best example I have to anybody that says we went into Iraq and Afghanistan because of human rights issues. I would say, well, why didn't we go into Zimbabwe? Why didn't we go into North Korea? Why aren't we going? Because there is nothing there. There's
no oil.
Source.
There's no oil. There's no.
You go in China where you get like you said, there's an abundance. That's the illusion that it's just crumbling so quickly.
They've hidden those kind of countries, or what they've done is they've basically desensitized us to the fact. Oh, it's China, they do it all the time.
Yeah.
And then we're like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's fine then. That's all right. Oh my God, look what's happening in Ukraine. It's like they're humans too.
I was on this Russian news chat early this week, and we were sort of talking about how the world is sort of damning Russia for shooting this plane down, and this journalist was saying, well, first of all, allegedly, because it wasn't. First of all, we know it wasn't Russia. It was allegedly Russian supporting forces, supposedly. First of all, it could also be pro-Western Ukrainian forces. It could have been someone completely different. There is no evidence to suggest any of this, apart from any of that, starting from there. Secondly, even if it is pro-Russian forces that shot it down, what's that got to do with Russia exactly? They just say they're supporting Russia.
What the fuck has a plane got to do over a fucking war zone? Why is a plane flying over a fucking war zone? This is confirmed that it was a war zone, a no-fly zone, and still fly. Well, then what the fuck are you doing? You're jeopardizing people's lives. Like,
first of all, what happened is that company should have been taken to court.
Yeah, well, I had a theory about that. I had a theory about the 2 Malaysians going down, because then, like, the company the profits might go down, share price might go down, and get taken over by another company, and then take over and buy all their planes. Exactly. just thinking like out there. But yeah. I love your point about the manipulation of the press. Yeah, completely. There's no society that doesn't that's never had complete dominance over them without the manipulation of the press and media, the flow of information. Knowledge is power, like we know.
Yeah.
I see that growth though. I still see that growth going so quickly. I'm lucky. I've come into this. I was explaining this to the wife the other day. I said, like, when I chat to Kiki and I chat to P about shit, they've been doing this longer than what I have. I've been in it a year, like from 5th of November that I've been active, properly active. People have said that this is the most activity they have ever seen, and I'm in the fucking thick of it. And I'm like, well, this just seems like normal to me. I'm ready to rock and roll. And they're like, no, man, honestly, this is the escalation in shit that they can't believe that so many people all of a sudden are just getting it. And if that's happening in such a short period of time, what's the snapback going to be? There's got, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So what's the snapback going to be?
Well,
is it going to be?
Society still hasn't. I mean, the point about it is also, this is where the worrying bit comes in as well, is that these people have been experts at manipulating society and getting their way for generations. And I was talking about this on the last radio thingy, this webinar radio thing that we do, that these people don't plan in generations. People don't plan in hours, people don't plan in days. They plan in generations. They plan, how am I going to keep my family two generations down the line still at the pinnacle of society? How are we gonna? That's probably why they haven't reacted yet, because it hasn't gotten to the point where they need to react. They're not stupid. You'd be foolish to think that they are, because they're not. They wouldn't be in power for so long if they were. These people are very, very clever, and they will have a very good reaction to it, and we just have to be prepared for it. I think that the next battlefront is the media, because the media control people's minds. If, for example, there was a radio station, for example, like this, that suddenly got the same views that BBC got, or double that, society would be very, very different. Voting would be very, very different. We'll be ignorant to believe that society doesn't decide what Prime Minister says or what government we have next if it isn't for the mainstream media. They decide who we vote for. The reason why it is Labour or Conservatives is because it's almost like they want to show that there is democracy, because, you know, one time it's Conservatives, one time it's Labour. You don't like one, you like the other.
Perhaps we are heading towards a Hunger Games style future once the oil bubble has burst.
That is terrible.
Yeah, that is, but that's honest to gosh though, that's like, you know, shit that I've been thinking about. What is the, you know, when you consume this information, say take it from your point of like propaganda and saying media, mainstream media is concerned out, but then when you look at like the dystopic view of the alternative media, sometimes you have to take a step back even from that, because it is like, hold the fuck up. Shit, is this real? This is, if you don't think that peak oil is happening, technological unemployment, the eventual collapse of society due to industrial civilization, the collapse of money itself, and you're like, hold on a second, that's without people talking about lizards,
if you ain't
aliens,
ready, and you ain't got shit ready now and somewhere to go.
But that, like you say, is it going to switch into like a dystopian effect where you got to fight for everything?
We don't know what they're going to do we? We haven't written the rules. We don't know how it could do, because there could be a many few of us who will fight against that. I think there's going to be a lot of devastation happening quite soon. If oil does drop, it's how it is. It's just how it's always been. It's the resource goes, the population goes. It's just how it works. And we've hit peak resource.
I mean, what is also interesting, though, on a slightly more positive note,
oh, please do, yes, please do bring me out of this spiral of depressing doom and gloom, marvelous, miraculous Matteo, the maestro of mirth and merriment. Please do carry on.
No, I was just going to say that there are. I mean, what's interesting though is that there are countries out there who are doing things differently. Like, if you look at Iceland, for example, Iceland prime ministers have said our goal for the next generation is to create a moneyless society. they're actually thinking of setting up what we would effectively call the closest thing to would be a communist society, if you want to name it that. But they're actually moving towards that to show that it is possible. And I think why we see so little, or why we are fighting so much, is because we are at the heart of it. We are heart of capitalist society. Britain is the founder of capitalism. If you want to name one, we are the ones that started it all and then brought it to the world. So you're fighting in the lion's den at the heart of it all. As opposed to places like Iceland that had a different sort of opinion on the way things going.
Uruguay. We've got Uruguay, they're not capitalist. Finland have got their education system down to a T. They've also, where is it, Norway that's done their power, or Sweden?
Germany switched to a couple of times in the last couple of months. 76% of their power come from renewables. When you go to Europe, I went to Denmark, been over there, man, fucking rocking place. You feel backward. You know, I always used to joke when I was like non-awake, shall we say. I always used to joke about stereotypes of like Europeans. Like, so if I was French, like if I was taking the piss out of French, I would say like, oh man, he's these jaunty beret wearing, smoking, nonchalant guys sitting there drinking coffee, going where? But I got to there and I was like, Jesus Christ, we're really backward in England. We are
I used that beret one before.
Oh,
yeah, I did. That's quite good. We both used the word beret in literally an hour. That is brilliant. That's like flossing and brushing. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I just realised how backward we was. You know, you see the renewable energy everywhere. You see wind turbines. There's no stigma in it. There's a complete society within Copenhagen itself, in Christiania. A bunch of old hippies bought some land, and when you go there, it's absolutely amazing. There's no law there's law, but it's done by a council. It's done properly. An amazing place. But you look at, like you say, Europe to us, and different places that are trying different systems, and I haven't thought about it fighting it in the lion's den. That's quite an interesting analogy, mate. Because yeah, you're right. It's like the heart of in capitalism, and also the illusion of democracy. You was talking about, like, you know, earlier about putting forward the puppet at the left and the right, but that illusion of democracy is slipping fast. People are realising that there is only a fucking cigarette paper between the arse cheeks of these motherfuckers. They're all the same. And as soon as people realise that, then the illusion's gone. People realise and wake up very quickly. It's so simple for people to understand, to break it down from, I don't do politics. Well, what do you believe, the Conservatives, and there's a difference between these? Well, no, because they both fucked me over. Well, then there you go. Time for a change.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, for example, we've got Holland, which is having a smarter policy on drugs and trying to see a different way of dealing with it. We're trying to get stricter. Where you got the Germans going for renewable energy, we're trying to drill in the Arctic.
The Germans sell their water cannons because they're dangerous. We buy them.
They're selling them, saying we got to get rid of this because we want our populations to speak up and tell us what they want. We're trying to shut them off with water cannons.
Yeah, we're like, we'll have him for cheap. We've got a few issues this end. All that, it's got nothing on us.
Well, if you think about it, it's recycling.
It is best, but yeah, it is definitely.
It's recycling.
But not in a positive fucking way. It's not in the shit that I'd like to see them fucking recycled. I want to see them recycled. I'd like to see them mashed into something else. Maybe like a 3D printer or a renewable washing machine. I don't know. But do you think that we're gonna see? Do you think that we're gonna see these fucking water cannons? Because I have this fear, like, you know,
Apparently, from what I've heard, they are not going to be any good in London because of the back alleys, and that has been totally. When you look at the
don't talk about back alleys in London.
No, when you look at the riots, 2010 riots,
they're not made
for
water cannons.
You ain't gonna get cannon down the London alleys. You ain't gonna get a cannon down there.
No, I mean it's not like in America where they have huge streets so they can shoot them properly.
These are not as big as you think they are. All right, to get in between buildings, but to hit the main roads, they're fine.
Yeah.
You can't get in down little.
Yeah,
but if you're talking,
if you've got a water cannon after your ass, are you gonna hit a main road?
no, but you know what a majority of people are like on the front line that are going to be there and hit the front line of any protest and have direct confrontation, whether it's agent provocateurs or not.
They'll have the washing up liquid and the food colouring. You're going to make a mess of London Street.
I could imagine an MP or David Cameron or someone from the government, saying, "Well, we're recycling. What more do you want?"
This is our new green policy.
We're recycled.
Yeah. Our new green policy is that what we're going to do is we're going to go to America and we're going to import 50 million fucking guns, AR-15s, and we're going to arm the entire police force, but we are recycling and we're going to buy them all body gear at the same time. But then also we're going to buy them fucking riot vehicles and everything else, and we're going to widen the streets.
Let's just not complain about the water they use in the water cannons as being eco, because they might end up taking it from our toilet systems. We're recycling.
Yeah, let's keep that. I don't mind if we keep that fresh.
But I don't know. Do you think that if they have the opportunity to use them, because like,
oh, they would.
Yeah.
I think like with the way that shit's going, there's some events ramping up that look like they're going to get tasty. Now, I'm not instigating. I'm not a purveyor of violence. I don't wish. Just because I have a jaunty mask on doesn't mean that I want to go over there and punch you in the noggin. I don't wish to be rambunctious with you. I just want to jest with you. I don't like, it may be like grr, but I don't want to grr. I want to talk. But do you think that these? I have this just underlying niggling feeling that it's going to get to a point where people are going to say, "Fuck that shit," because.
Right, well, I'm sorry, it's going to kick off. It's going to kick off on 1 or 2 dates, and I predict one is in October and one is in November.
I know exactly.
It could kick off at 1 or it could kick off at 2.
I know exactly which day you're talking about in November.
Yeah, there's another one in October.
I don't have any clue what you're talking about of the date in November. I have no clue what you're talking about in November. I have nothing.
See, this is the thing. We can only ever speculate what's going to happen. Not one of us can instigate, and that is one of the things you can do with Anonymous. You can't speculate. You can't tell people what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen because it's an idea. Yeah. And that is the thing. It's everybody's collective ideas that come as one. Whether that happens or whether it doesn't is down to the days. I'm not going to say when the days are because it's just what you see online, and what we see is what everyone else sees. It's what NSA sees. It's what DCHQ says. But if mass people turn up on, in October or November and things get feisty, they'll get their cannons out. They'll get their cannons out.
They won't get it out. They will use that as an excuse to remove more
I think people. October will be an excuse for November.
Yeah.
How's that one? Let's try that. Right, come back to this video. Come back to this video.
I think you might be right on that
one. Let's have that recorded. That was predicted.
It's down. It's on the analogues. It's done, mate. It's in the annals of time now.
Yeah.
It's there.
That'll
it's been decreed.
One. When did I say, Chris, when I first spoke to you, when did I say it was all going to start kicking off and shit was going to start going?
From the mystic, the marvelous and mystical Kiki. She had a couple of premonitions, and she looked into a crystal ball and gazed into the future and saw these dates come towards her in a glimpse of flash and light. She said that something was going to happen in July, and she had a premonition. She had a little twinge, a little bit of women's intuition, shall we say? Something gave a twinge. She was a little, and it just popped in. And then there was the other date that she said that was going to happen, and said this early on in the year. Was going to be October, November. Now, I had a feeling more to November for me. July has been pretty fucking active. Been pretty eventful. Shit's been kicking off globally.
The monetary system has done what it was. Russia has come out and created a new currency.
Well, I'll do the. I'll give you the.
Russia. Yeah, Russia.
Did you say Russia?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
They wanted to do the ruble, didn't they? The gold-backed ruble.
They've made it known. They've made it known that they are in competition with the currency. Gaddafi did that.
Yeah, but Russia's got. Yeah, but the problem with Gaddafi is that Gaddafi forgot who fed him.
He bit that hand.
Gaddafi was only there because America wanted him there. Putin is there for his own right. You know, Putin is probably the only man in the world that has his own power base that can rival Western powers. You know, the powers that be, whatever you want to call it. Putin's the only sort of man that has that power. I don't think even the China is stronger economically than Russia, but I think Russia has more.
I have to admit, I did think that China was going to go for it slightly, but I knew as soon as US stepped foot into the Ukraine, the way that they did, that this was going to happen. But then everybody knew this was going to happen. They just didn't know when it was going to happen. And then when it started, when you think back in the November, there was such a lull. There was a real lull before the 5th of November last year. It was really weird. I can't even explain it. And no joke, November, right, it went up and there was a rise. And then there was a little lull again. There's been a real bicker and a bashing on Facebook. There's been a real divide within activism and a crushing sort of like blow with people's beliefs with Zionism, with Jewish, with Arab, with Muslim, with the religions all coming together, which the biblical prophecy will tell you is happening, right? It's just everyone's got their ideas on what's going to happen. But if you go down the biblical view, we're all fucking fucked. But this is the new age. We're coming into the new age, and the monetary system is going to collapse. It is going to collapse. There is no way they can come in with their newfangled this, that, the other. But each country now has its activists. Each country now has its divide, and it's which conscience wins. It's a war of conscience.
You know what's funny? That you think about. I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. And what you're saying is the exact same thing that Marx predicted all those many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I mean, the trouble with what Marx did is that we've got such a short memory span that we think, oh, what he said didn't happen. He never said it was going to happen in 100 years. He never said it was going to happen in 1,000 years. He said that what needs to happen is that it needs to be a global revolution with the same ideals, with the same beliefs, and the same brand. Obviously German because he was German. But he said that, and the thing is, if you look at what you're talking about, activists are now fighting in all countries around the world. They're fighting in the same language all around the world. They're fighting in the same platform, and they're united. So now
the religions, whether they're being told they're breaking apart or not, they're actually not. They're not breaking apart. They're coming together. They are being divided in some places, but the general activism religions are coming together. Yeah. The Jewish are coming together and saying to the Muslim, we don't want to hurt you. The Christians are turning around to the Muslim, and the Muslim are turning around to the Christians. They're saying, we're of the same, this is the same kind of thing. It is only within mainstream that we're seeing a giant crushing blow to religion. And this has all been noted. It's all gone bam, bam, bam. And do you know what? It's like the rape theory. I know that sounds really horrible. When you're younger, your mum always says to you, don't go down that back alley. It's like, I'll go down that fucking back alley. Nothing's going to happen to me, right? And it is that mentality that nothing is going to happen in our age. Everybody said it. Everybody has sat there and gone, nah, not in our time. Not in our time. It will happen. Yeah. Climate change, it will happen. Not in our time. Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. They say, it will happen. Not in our time. And it's that same mentality of cognitive dissonance of what can actually really happen to us. And when it sets in, it is so true. It's what they said. You get those stages: denial, anger, acceptance, and then fight.
It's like, for example, with, ISIS. I've got 1 second. Together against the Islamic State. You saw Christians being evicted from their homes and removed from where ISIS are. And then Muslims from around that area were all standing together, holding placards saying, I'm Christian, everybody's Christian. And you saw the Kurds welcoming them all in. All of these groups, we're told, are fighting against each other, and yet Christians are working with Muslims, Kurds are fighting and protecting the rest because they're the only surviving force in that region that can counteract against ISIS. And
we've now got an activist way. I'm talking from activists, not mainstream. We'll separate away mainstream activism. We have now got an activist community that has bonded with the Muslim community. We bonded with the Christian community anyway, because you know, that kind of thing, and now we're all bonding and it's all coming together, and they don't like it. We are dangerous connections. I'm learning that slowly, that we are very dangerous connections to have, because this is the divide they've been creating so long and working so hard to get to. And I don't think they have really took in the collapse. I do not think that was part of this plan. I believe that population was it has grown too much for them, and I think they do have generation plans, but I think some things bite them in the balls that they thought they would get a lot quicker. Gaza should have been a lot further forward. Things should have been a lot more advanced for them and easier for them. We shouldn't have given a shit about Gaza. They're not white. Why should we have given a shit about them? That is the exact mentality we should be at right now.
Yeah.
And we're not.
The backlash is going to be, I think, more manipulation, in the sense that what I think they're going to try and do is they're going to, and you can see it already, I think you can see the move of what the 1% is doing is already slowly happening. You can see that, because it's like a game of chess. You can see their move, in the sense that you can see them banging on about ISIS all the time. You can see the huge amount of propaganda that's coming out against Islam again, because they're seeing this as you said, this unity between all these different religions, all these different colors of skin, all these different groupings in society uniting, and they're trying to split them up again. And that's going to come out.
That's the illusion of humanity, though, isn't it? That's the illusion of humanity that now has become more apparent. You know, that there is, through the perpetration of media and the corruption of ideas, you know, you're made to feel disjointed and not feel part of a collective, not made to feel part of a community, not made to feel part of humanity. Social media, anything like this, the world that we live in now with technology enables us to be seeing someone blown up, enables us to see a brother and sister. Yeah, so it doesn't. I don't think it desensitizes. I think it brings home harder to the activists, because I'm not talking about the mainstream. I'm talking, like you were saying, about activists. If activists see that, the majority of activists got a social conscience. As soon as they gain that, you can never get. It never goes. It never goes. It's there for life. As soon as you, that's the awakening moment. Yeah. So when we see global events, and like you said, you know, groups are starting to amalgamate together and come together and certain things. It's going to take one little fucking spark. We spoke about Gaza today. Look at the uproar about that. Weeks. Started 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30, 50, 100.
Ferguson isn't about one black man being shot.
No,
it's about hundreds of black people being shot and segregated and treated like a lower class, like a person whose life is valued less than anyone else. That's what Ferguson is about. That's what the 2010 riots were about. This is what every single riot is about these days. People getting angry.
It's like
it was amazing to see that, though.
Realistically, it's the same sort of thing, but in real life. In the sense that what sparked it all off wasn't, I mean, what's the spark, the initial spark that set off that revolution was that boy or girl, I can't remember, being shot by the policeman, that trigger-happy policeman, because she was wearing a mask. And he thought he saw V. He shot him. I mean, it wasn't about her specifically. That was the spark, or him, I can't remember. But it was about something much deeper than that. But that was almost like the spark that ignited the fire. And the fire was fueled by years of... The fire's there anyway.
And it's been burning and burning, and it's been burning within disability rights. It's been burning within people of colour. It's been burning within people with children having their kids taken away.
Generation.
But that's what you're seeing now. Then to put that into context, that's what you're seeing now with the backlash of fucking humanity that have fucking silently said that I've had enough. You're looking at people and activists, and we're still talking from an activist standpoint here. Activists, like you said, have connected globally are now coming together and saying, look, well, this is bullshit.
I don't believe activists were a part of their plan. I do not believe they felt that this was going to happen. I think they felt that it was doing so well creating BNP and EDL and all these little the tea parties, you know, these places that with Africa, what we created in Africa, that is what we were meant to be. This activism, this should have been stamped out, just like Martin Luther King, just like JFK. It should all have been stamped out, and it's been nothing but stamping out of it this whole time. And I don't think they expected the rise, but I still do not believe if we have a media blackout that we are going to be okay.
I think the idea of having a complete shutdown of you're saying about activists and they didn't have that in their plans. I think they did have it in their plans, but I don't, like you say, I don't think they realised the exponential growth of things and this speed and scale. That seems to be their problem. And like Matteo says, the war at the moment is in the media.
Occupy
is the battleground.
Occupy did that by realising and acknowledging and advertising the 1% and the 99%. Occupy did that.
But I mean, there's bound to be mistakes within because this is all new to everybody, and there's going to be something, and it's human nature that has been taught to us by the 1%, in the sense that we've all got these egos inside of us, we've all got these ideas, we've all got these things we want to do, and it's whether you act upon that is a different thing. And I think that everybody's got a danger. As soon as you get a little bit of power, people get power hungry, people get power drunk.
Or shot.
Have a little bit of that.
I'm fucking doom and gloom there. Or get shot in the face. Front and to the left. As it go, left, back and to the left, back and to the left. As JFK supposedly went from a shot from behind now. Back and to the left. Sorry, it wasn't the grassy knoll. I was just speculating.
Yes.
Back and to the left.
But we still can't buy that book. You still can't buy that book.
Jay, you ain't gonna buy it. Right, yeah, cool.
I got to wrap up because I got to head off.
No worries, that's
cool.
fine. We'll
speak to you next week.
See you later, Mayo. Wait, you need to call me, motherfucker.
I will call. Are you going to be free tomorrow? I sent you a Facebook message about when you're free next week.
Yeah, call me tomorrow. I'm free. I'm off. I'm not working tomorrow, so I'm off.
I'll give you a call in the morning then.
All right, then, mate.
Cool. Cheers.
See you
Bye,
later.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Kate.